Welcome to this episode of the Talk by Mentorguru. I am Thor-Erik and this episode will be in English. The EMCC Nordics, that's Denmark, Finland, Sweden and Norway, had their conference together for the first time, and David Drake was one of the speakers. David Drake called himself human coach, threshold guide and enlightened pragmatist. He has devoted his life to studying the art and science of change and guiding people through transitions and transformations. He founded both Narrative Coaching in 2002, which was based on his doctoral work, and Integrative Development in 2012 as a revolutionary framework for learning and development. He is a thought leader for the Institute of Coaching at Harvard, and he has written over 60 publications on coaching. In this episode, I also have a co-host, Odd-Erik Blegeberg. He works and is responsible for trainee programs, and he's a certified coach and also a fellow board member in EMCC Norway. So, David took us into the future and encouraged us to move beyond competencies and emphasized the crucial role presence and human maturity play in the professional craft that is coaching. So we took a deep dive into this and into his mind, and this is the conversation. So in beautiful Copenhagen, we sit here with David Drake. And for all your listeners, David, how have you become who you are now?
I've had a lot of practice being myself, so I've learned a lot about that. But I think back to two defining experiences when I was young that I didn't like at the time, but now I can see in retrospect, it really prepared me for who I am. So one was I had a surgery when I was very small, and I, for a variety of reasons, got left at the hospital by myself to have that surgery, and I was probably 3 or 4 years old. And on a parallel track, I went to 4 schools by the time I got to grade 2, and often by myself. And I've moved through all that in terms of what that meant for me at the time and made peace with my mom. But in terms of who I've become, it really sensitized me to the notions of belonging, the notions of the simplicity of what people actually need. And oftentimes we don't feel prepared for some of the things that we encounter in our life. And then, or if we're with somebody else who's encountering something difficult, and then we don't know what to say, so we don't say anything. But I think back to as a young child, I didn't really need very much to normalize my experience and attend to what I actually needed. And so, and I just watched people around me struggle with different things. And so I became fascinated by how do we understand the human condition, and how do we understand ways of helping people to become aware of themselves, starting with ourselves. And so I've dedicated my whole life in various shapes and degrees trying to understand what is the essential elements of being present in a way that serves somebody else.
Yeah. And Odd-Erik, you are my co-host today. How have you become who you are?
Wasn't prepared on that question, but I'll take that. I have grown up in 2 different schools. I've finding my place. I have to learn a lot of things like the social. I become need to observe other people, how are they doing, and to find my place I observed and trying and failure to find and build my social competence, and that I've been trying to do in like the coaching way as well. When I had the trainee programs for a couple of years ago, and had some programs with foreign that had to integrate to Norway. Some integration programs, and had these young people that didn't fit the A4 school. And that I had to look a lot back to myself and how I was at school and didn't fit in the A4 for school system. So I kind of understand them in another way, and saw that the problem at work didn't actually to be the problem. So we had to talk and use a little bit of what you talked about for a minute ago. Listen, let the stories come, and trying to find the real reason that making the problem at work. And that is how my life has been, and how I built my experience as a coach and become the coach I am today.
Great.
David, you have now had a talk, and you're talking about 5 maturities in coaching, and something you started with. I wrote it down because I thought it was kind of funny.
Okay.
Because you said competences are great for beginners, and I think maybe 1 minute before you said it's so nice to be here because it's so many young people here. So competences are great for beginners. How can one build competence after you have maybe the framework?
Yeah. So, I mean, the standard idea is that you first have to learn the rules, and then you master the rules, and then you break the rules, and then you create your own rules. And so in coaching, we're very much in this first phase of acquiring things. We don't have debates. We don't challenge. So the woman that was based on her understanding of English was thinking I was saying things and was challenging me on that. Great, I want that. We don't argue enough. We don't, why do you believe that? Where's the evidence? And then a lot of people like myself that have largely stayed out of associations is because I never went that route. I've always built an integrative business. And so part of it is recognizing that the piece about credibility that I talk about as the 5th sort of mastery is, why do you believe what you do? And why do you think what you do works? And so being able to help people to be able to not just learn more stuff, but almost at an elemental alchemy level, understand that moving pieces and this dynamics. So you can start to say, if I get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, or actually, I don't need to be in rapport right now. I need to piss them off, right? Because that's what the conversation is wanting. But that requires a confidence, like, I have enough trust now. I've earned the right to challenge them a bit. And I also can come around on the backside to support them. So you need to kind of get away from, which is hard for coaches because they want to coach. But you can't perform and learn at the same time. So I want to move away from so much focus on the performance, especially at higher levels, to actually deeper learning, and then the ability to deconstruct your learning and mix and match and move things around to create innovative interventions in the moment. And it only comes through practice, deep feedback. I'm working with a platform called Ovida, which is recording people and helping them to then, I'm helping them build the next stage of this, which is to get the feedback on that, but then to deconstruct the feedback and deconstruct the experience to then figure out, how do I learn how to do something differently? And it often comes through ways that most coaches are not used to, because they're used to inhaling more stuff. And so I think it's really around practice, feedback, and more practice. And you know that you're on that path when you can start to improvise.
Yeah, because Well, you also talked about stop coaching,
Yes.
and you said start use stories.
Yeah.
And just after your talk, I talked to some really young people who are here at the conference, and they said we are just in the middle of our coaching education right now.
Yeah.
And we have been learning the frameworks, all the questions, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
But he's saying, let it go. Don't use it. So that was very funny.
Sure. Well, but I was very clear that in the beginning, it's helpful to have some of those basic tools. But the problem becomes, I think we basically are communicating what what I'm teaching you now is coaching. It's not. It's coaching skills. I said, but coaching is something I think much bigger and broader. And so what happens is there's no space for them to realize that beyond that beginner's point, one of your first tasks is then to get rid of most of it. And so in the start of it, I used to like jump right into teaching our narrative coaching program. And I realized they were listening to me from old lenses and with old ears. And I said, no. So we spend the first 2 or 3 modules, which is very frustrating to some people, helping them compost most of what they were taught about coaching. You needed that to get into the game and to understand the basics. And now we're going to ask you to get rid of it. And not to throw it away, but all the energy there, which is why it's composting. It's the same thing you would do with a garden. You need to re-nourish the soil based on what you've already done. So that all the stuff you learned will compost and become the nutrients for what's going to come next, which is a recognition, which those are all just placeholders for what really is happening in coaching. And you will go back and you will pick up some of those old skills again, but now with a much more mature mindset. And we don't have, like I said, those spaces where people can come compost things that they don't need anymore in the way they learned them. And then to curate, what of that am I going to take with me that still I find valuable? And so when they're acquiring more tools and things, they're applying it to a beginner's sort of frame, which then makes them not very effective. And I think that those young people that you refer to, they're coming up in a very different world for which many of the things we're teaching them are not relevant in the same way anymore. You know, we had a group where we had a bunch of 25 and 30-year-olds in one of my little sessions, and I listed off 5 names of people that were seminal in building narrative coaching. None of them had any idea who they were. I said, one guy said, does he have a YouTube channel? And I said, no, because he's been dead for 30 years. Or if Jung's sake, he's been dead for 100 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, and the other thing I think is so unusual about coaching, and I've always observed that coaching is unique in that it was born in the marketplace, not in academia. Academia came later as a retrofit. And one of the losses I find in that is there's not a level of respect for what made coaching possible. Like we don't like, I mean, I think the Europeans do a better job of that just because of the nature of your culture, but we don't pay respect to like people like Carl Rogers. Without Carl Rogers, there's no coaching in a way. And so when you have respect for founders, it's not like you're going to emulate them or copy them, but you understand where this all came from and what this requires. And so now we have young people coming up in a culture in which those voices are not present and they're not known, and coaching's never done that very well. It's always about the bright and shiny and what's new and what's next, as if it's better, when it's usually not. But they also have much more consciousness about environment, about diversity, about challenges around economics, and then when my high school in 1973, when I was in high school, got the first computer at a high school in my county. And you had to hand code it with a pencil on cards. Well, now we had this big debate about whether calculators should be allowed at school, right? And now it's just like so ubiquitous. And so there's things are going to have to change because technology is changing our lives for better or worse.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's really damaging to our kids with the suicide rates, mental health illnesses. Even now, cancer is now prevalent and more prevalent in teenagers than ever before. So it's not always in our favor, but that's the milieu in which they're operating. The pressures of social media, the online bullying, the pressures to look a certain way and having to do all these things, and so I've always believed that one of the things we can do is to treat coaching as a verb, not a noun. It's not a thing, and it's an alive verb that will need to adapt. And we're not in the 1980s anymore, right? We're not a bunch of privileged, largely white people in America that are doing this. It's like so diverse and so global now, but it needs a more fluid and agile construct, which means we need to teach people differently and give them more chances to get exposure, have practice, have debates, and come up with some new language for what we're doing.
Yeah, because I think what you are kind of preaching,
yes,
is be present and dancing in the moment. The old coaching saying, dancing in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And you talk a lot about it's born in the marketplace. You need to practice your skills. You need to get experience and have a practical approach to it. And we was very lucky to see you in action with in the coaching session, and you got a quite interesting question, with your body language, and that takes a lot of practice to train. Can you explain how you use your body language and how it impacts the coachee?
Yeah, so I've had no training in that whatsoever. I never studied it. I've done a lot of dance in my life. I love music, so I've been exposed to things that I was not very in touch with my body when I was younger, through sport, through art, through music, through dance. But it was only other people that helped me see that I was doing that. And so normally we would say, can you train us on that? No, I can't. I could. There are people in the world that do that. They're former dancers or whatever that can help you be aware of your body. But for me, it comes from my identity. So one of the things that's unique about narrative coaching is we focus very much on identity because our behavior is just an expression of our identity. And so when I'm in a coaching mode, I'm pretty much in a channeling state, which means I'm going to move myself in the conversation to be in the flow of the conversation, to both scaffold what's emerging, but then be ready when something's coming up. That's completely unconscious to me. And I've just instinctively done that over time because I come with both strength and humility when I'm coaching. And I used to pride myself in being articulate and skillful, and I think I still am, but I started to realize that's not nearly as effective or necessary as I thought. And that from a really sort of esoteric perspective, the story is trying to help something happen that the client is telling. We're not aware of what that is yet. And so we do a lot of what we call serious play with characters in the story, energies in the story. And a lot of that's just intuitively being with the content as if it's alive, just like your glasses on the table are alive. And so I'm just thinking, what it looks like through these. And so I might just casually in the conversation, just say, And I'm not thinking, I need to look through the glasses because it'll be clever and helpful. I'm just finding myself in the flow as a character in this unfolding story. I'm not over here as the coach. And so then I just noticed over the years, talking much, much less and just allowing my body to move where it somehow sensed I needed to be. And how I developed that perception or intuition, I can make some guesses of contributing factors, but one of the things that we teach a lot about is, everything that your client's about to do in coaching is unknown to them. So why do we talk about it so much as if we're supposed to know, right? And it's a lot of what we're doing is we're entering into a place of mystery. And after all these years of study, I've kind of concluded that humans are mysteries. And it's just freed me from having to worry about, I've got to figure this out. And so my body just moves by itself. I don't think about it at all. Every now and then I can rise above it and watch myself move and go, oh, yeah, I can see why I would do that. But I don't plan it. I don't engineer it. It just seems to happen. Yeah.
But that's quite your whole coaching process, because you don't go in the session with a plan or a goal or something like that. You just play along as it happens.
Yeah, but it's also, so two things. One is people can bring goals if that's important to them. I can go with the goal. I don't say you have to leave that at the door, but I don't get attached to that, or we have to stay there. And the second thing is that early on, I got a lot of questions, and like I said in the other room, well, you're just sitting there, you're not doing anything. I said, well, actually, I'm doing a ton. You just can't see most of it. And I said, but the people have this sense that narrative coaching is passive. No, it's not passive. It's just not aggressive. It's not driven. We're bringing energy that matches what's needing to happen in that moment. And more of that will emerge in quiet. So we often think in the West of silence as the absence of talking. No, silence is actually the ground of existence. Go out in space. It's all silence, right? We add to that. So I go back to the quote that's been attributed to tons of different people, but which is to only speak when you can improve on silence. And it's not nearly as often as we think. And so coaches, I find at times, especially, don't trust silence.
I think people are afraid of silence.
Yeah.
I think so.
I would agree. But silence is from where everything came from.
Yeah.
And we have to end up talking ourselves out of things because we don't want to just be with it. And so our methodology is very patient. It drives some of our students mad because they want to do something. And I said, again, it's like trying to yell at the rose bush. I need flowers now, please. And there's a lot of, again, not passive, but not attached waiting until the time is right. And so what happens is that people, when they're left at peace and they realize, oh, he means this, and they can settle into it, they actually come to much deeper truth. And which is actually the opposite of how most people are trained in coaching, which you have to have a whole raft of powerful questions. No, you don't. Yeah.
When in your maturity process did you learn to hold back and not focus on the questions?
I think it was actually through my training as a grief counselor, and it was before coaching. But I went back to that experience, and I've done that off and on in other roles since then, my original training. But you realize, most of us have lived long enough to have significant deaths of friends or relatives or parents. And, in most cultures, you just get inundated with banalities because no one knows what to say. Sorry for your loss, right? Which is well-meaning, and people, but they don't know what to say. And then I realized there's nothing to say.
No.
I see you hurting. I see that you're mourning the loss of your dear friend. My best friend from childhood killed himself 2 years ago, which was shocking to me. It just seemed this young man I had known most of my whole life now is gone by his own choice. And just that's not the Craig that I knew. And so people were trying to, it must be so hard. And yes, it's hard. But I just find that if we trust, and you can use different languages for this, but if you trust that we have a human spirit, we have a soul, that's trying, or Jung would say our psyche, is trying to bring a sense of wholeness to ourselves. So I'm not there to make that happen. I'm there to create this space where that can do what it needs to do. And I can augment that by surfacing certain things, or most often witnessing something, like I see this in you. I see you wanting to feel this, but you're not allowing yourself. That's for the young woman that I was coaching. And where do you notice this in this descent from your head? Boom. Right there.
Yeah.
So that's the only part of her I'm interested in at that point, because she's realized or discovered that's the opening for her to look at herself. And so I was lucky she's aware enough of herself to notice that. But until then, I'm just talking. And it's not mostly very useful at all. And yeah.
When you're noticing, like you said, you're just talking and it's not useful. When do you change tactics when you feel like you don't proceed in the conversation?
So one of the things that's been a big influence on me is my long-term study of things like Taoism and some Buddhism, but mostly Taoism. I find very fascinating as a philosophy. And one of the things that it leads you away from is the Western proclivity to label things and create binary polarities, which has no bearing in life. I mean, it's just made up. And so we do away with labels like good and bad. We just focus on what is. And a lot of the work then is just helping people increase their awareness of what is without having to. You can notice labels you put on it. I can think of events in my life, like many of us can, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me and the best thing that ever happened to me. It's just a matter of time, perspective. And yes, I'd like to never have had them, but also I realized what I was able to do with them because I put the energy in to harvesting the wisdom in that. And so I'm just, the analogy, I used to do a lot of kayaking and canoeing on rivers, and I don't as much anymore, but I used to teach kids how to canoe, and they always went like, and he said, you're not going to be able to overpower the river. It will win every single time. And your job is to be at one with the river. So you can't just surrender to it. Otherwise it's going to capsize you, guaranteed, when you go through a turn. But you have to be in that flow and then just turn kind of with the river. And the same thing with coaching, that I think coaches often, in their their natural and wonderful desire to help a human, over effort on coaching and trying to change the river. And you're really trying to find where's the flow going with this person. How might I like to get them to stick their oar in just a little bit and turn a little bit over here instead, to see something they didn't see before. And then I find then that coaching becomes, I won't say effortless, but much easier. And that goes back to my thing about just please stop coaching. You're trying way too hard. You mean well, maybe some good things to happen, but it just signals to me you don't trust yourself, you don't trust them, and you don't trust the process. Because you feel like if I don't do it. So the belief underneath all that, and I don't mean this quite this crassly, but is that nothing good will happen unless I coach well. And I said, whatever the journey they're on, they've been on for a long time. They're going to be on again after they left you. You're just noticing, like, where are they in the river now? And how can you support them to be aware of that and take advantage of what has presented themselves?
I think it's good to say we are in the end now, and I think it's good to say that your talk have been about, as I said, presence.
Mm-hmm.
Be present. It's very important, even more important than questions.
Yes,
because then you are there, and that's comforting and very good for the coachee to know that you are and you are there for them.
Yes.
And stop coaching. Stop using all the different coach techniques and everything. Just be in the moment and dancing in the moment.
Yeah.
With the coachee.
Yeah. One of the ways I helped myself as I was making that transition was I realizing I had a little holder for all my pens and things on my desk, and I just imagined as these are all the skills I've gotten from my degrees and things. And I would just when people would come to my office, when I had an office, or even when I'm online now virtually coaching, I put that right in front of me, and I say, these are all the things I have to offer, but I have to consciously choose one of them. And often I found over time I never reached for the jar. There's some that's instinctively built into me now, but I realized that I was overusing some of those things before, and most of them were not necessary. When you learn those skills, you get to feel what it's like to do that, like the ability to be curious, right? It's a novel thing for many people. So in the course of learning those tools or skills, you become aware of curiosity. But once you've learned that, you don't need those crutches anymore that way. And you're now just, I read this quote yesterday that's in the paper now about when you reach a certain level of mastery, it becomes who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice that you're talking about this. It's not the age thing.
No.
It's experience. Maturity is experience, not the age thing. So that's quite important to say, because we have a lot of young coaches. So they have to stay and coach, and the experience will come.
Yes.
You can be a mature coach at a young age.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful final word.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. As we wrap up this insightful conversation, I'm reminded of the power of stories. David has enlightened us in the path toward coaching mastery. So dear listeners, remember that coaching isn't just about competences, it's about mastery and maturity as a coach as well. So thank you, Coach Thor-Erik, for sharing your wisdom, and to all your listeners, may your coaching journey be rich with curiosity, compassion and courage. Remember to smash that abo button so you have the opportunity to hear the next episode as well. Until next time, stop coaching, start facilitating growth.